Have you ever asked yourself this? I gave her everything. So why did she still leave? That's the gut punch most men carry. You worked hard, stayed loyal, did everything right. You loved her more than anyone else ever could. And yet, one day, she just stopped loving you back. No warning, no clear reason. Just cold distance, like all the memories, the promises, the sacrifices you imagined them. And here's the part that drives you insane. She didn't leave for something obvious. You weren't cheating. You weren't abusive. You weren't even a bad man. She left because you gave her everything. You became solved, predictable, safe, and in her eyes, worthless. That's the pain nobody prepares you for. Men are told be kind, be loyal, be generous. But the moment you follow that script, she loses interest, and you're left wondering if women even want love at all. The truth, you've been playing the wrong game with the wrong rule book. You've been trying to use male logic to decode female psychology, though. And that's like trying to run iOS on an Android. It doesn't matter how much effort you put in it, will never work. Because women don't think like men. They never have. Their brains aren't wired for logic the way yours is. They don't measure love by effort, sacrifice, or problem solving. They measure it by emotion, by competition, by constant change. Evolution shaped you to hunt, to build, to protect, to solve problems. That's why when there's conflict, your first instinct is to fix it. But women survived using a completely different strategy. They didn't survive by lifting heavier rocks or fighting predators. They survived by extracting resources, by testing, by manipulating, by controlling without physical strength. That's not an insult, it's biology. And ignoring it is why men keep losing. Think about it. When men argue, brain scans light up in the problem-solving center. We want resolution. When women argue, their emotional and memory centers explode like fireworks. You're focused on fixing the leaky faucet. She's replaying every time you forgot to call, every birthday you got slightly wrong, every word that made her feel less than perfect. You live in the present. She lives in every moment at once. And this is where most men fail. You think loyalty means I stay through thick and thin. She thinks loyalty means you keep winning me. Every day. Forever. The moment you stop competing, the moment you relax and think the relationship is secure, she feels abandoned. That's why so many guys hear the same heartbreaking line. You're too good to me, but I just don't feel it anymore. What she's really saying is the game is over. She conquered you, and she can't stay where the challenge has ended. Here's the sting. She doesn't want a fixed amount of attention. She doesn't want stability the way you do. She wants the feeling of winning your attention, again and again. That's why she leaves the stable husband for the attentive boyfriend. And then leaves the attentive boyfriend for being too needy. It was never about the amount. It was always about the relative change. So when you gave her everything, she lost the one thing she needed most, the chase. And until you understand that, you'll keep believing you lost her because you weren't enough, when in reality, you lost her because you gave too much. So how does she really decide what to do? How does she choose when to stay, when to test, and when to walk away? It all comes down to the algorithm running in her head, not the fairy tale she tells her friends, not the excuses she gives you, the real code. And once you understand this, everything finally makes sense. The first variable is simple. How does this make me feel right now? Not tomorrow, not next year, not after the mortgage is paid off. Right now. Her brain is wired for the present emotion, not the long-term plan. If the feeling isn't there in this moment, She acts as if it will never return. The second variable. What can I extract from this situation? That could mean time, attention, money, resources, protection, or status. It's not always material. Sometimes it's just your energy, your validation, your willingness to make her feel special. But extraction is always happening. It's a survival program she can't turn off. The third variable. How does this affect my position compared to other women? This is the hidden competition most men never see. Behind all the sisterhood slogans, women are locked in a silent war with each other. Every outfit, every compliment, every relationship update is part of that war. She doesn't just want to be happy. She wants to be happier than her friends. She doesn't just want a good man. She wants a man better than theirs. And finally, the fourth variable. Can I do better? This question never shuts off. It runs in the background like Bitcoin mining. Always searching, always comparing, always scanning the horizon for an upgrade. Loyalty, for her, doesn't mean staying no matter what. Loyalty means you keep winning against all possible competitors, every day. And that's where men get blindsided. You thought love was a promise sealed years ago. She thinks love is a competition that resets every morning. So when you stop pushing, when you stop chasing, when you stop proving, she doesn't see that as comfort. She sees it as betrayal. Because in her mind, the moment you relax is the moment you've abandoned her. That's why a man can spend years building stability, only to lose it all the second he stops playing the game. Not because he was unworthy, but because he forgot the one rule of her operating system never stopped competing. Let me show you how this plays out in real life. A woman leaves her husband because he's emotionally unavailable. That's the story she tells her friends. The truth, he was steady. He was consistent. He was reliable. But he wasn't giving her the feeling she craved in the moment. So she finds a new guy. And this man gives her what she thought she wanted. Attention, affection, constant reassurance. For the first few months, it feels amazing. She tells everyone, this is what love should feel like. But 6 months later, she's gone again. Now he's too needy, too available, too predictable. He didn't change. He didn't become weaker. He simply revealed that the game was already won. And once the game is won, the thrill is over. Here's what most men never realize. Women don't process absolute values. They process relative changes. It's not about how much attention you give. It's about the shift from less to more, from challenge to comfort. She doesn't want attention as a fixed amount. She wants the feeling of winning your attention, again and again. That's why a man can never lock it in with effort alone. The moment you think, I've secured her forever, is the moment you start to lose her. Because in her world, there is no finish line. And this is where men get trapped in confusion. You're thinking, she said she wanted more affection. I gave it. Why didn't it work? Because what she wanted wasn't the affection itself. She wanted to see if she could make you give it. Once you gave in, the test was over. This is the paradox every man faces. The more you give in to what she asks, the faster she loses interest. The more you try to solve her problems, the more invisible you become. And if you don't understand this cycle, you'll spend your life trying harder, giving more, and watching her drift away with that same cold line. I just don't feel it anymore. Now, let's talk about what happens when women are around each other. Scientists have noticed something fascinating. When women spend time together, their brains literally start to sync. Their menstrual cycles align. Their speech patterns merge. Their opinions slowly converge. On the surface, it looks like bonding, like connection, like sisterhood. But here's what no one talks about, that synchronization isn't cooperative, it's competitive. Every compliment hides a power move. Every shared secret is ammunition for later. Every girl's night out is less about fun and more about reconnaissance. Who's rising in the hierarchy? Who's falling? Who's winning the invisible war? This is the female social matrix, an endless web of comparison and competition. And here's the brutal truth. She doesn't judge her relationship by whether she's happy. She judges it by whether she's happier than the women around her. She doesn't want a good man. She wants a better man than her friends have. That's why social media wrecked modern relationships. Before, she was comparing you to the small circle of men in her real life, her friends' boyfriends, her co-workers' husbands. Now she's comparing you to millions of highlight reels, every luxury trip, every anniversary post, every filtered moment of perfect love. And here's the kicker, you're not competing against real men anymore. You're competing against an imaginary composite of every perfect relationship ever posted online. The trips she's never taken, the cars she's never ridden in, the gestures she's never received. It's not reality she's measuring you against. It's fantasy. So what happens? You can work hard. You can be loyal. You can give her stability. But the moment she scrolls through Instagram, your reality loses to someone else's illusion, and you're left wondering why your best never feels like enough. This is why so many women say, "I love him, but something feels missing." What feels missing is the constant victory of being ahead in the social matrix, the validation of having a relationship that outshines her peers. Without that, the happiness she once felt fades, no matter how good you've been to her. The social matrix never shuts off, and if you don't understand that game, you'll keep thinking love is about her and you. But in her world, it's always about her, you, and everyone else watching. Now here's where it gets even crazier. The female brain is full of contradictions. But to her, they aren't contradictions at all. She demands commitment. But the second you fully commit, her attraction drops. She begs you to open up emotionally. But the moment you cry in her arms, she loses respect. She says she wants a successful man. But she resents the time and focus success requires. To you, this feels insane. To her, it feels natural. Because these aren't bugs in the system. They're features. Every demand is actually a test. Not of what you'll give, but of whether you'll give it. She's not checking if you can meet her request. She's checking if you'll break your frame to do it. And the second you break, you fail, even though you gave her exactly what she asked for. Here's a story that proves it. A man dates a woman who constantly complains. You never share your feelings. So one day, he finally does. He opens up. He tells her about his fears, his grief after losing his father, his private battles with depression. For a moment, she comforts him. For a moment, it feels like connection. But within 2 weeks, she's distant. Within a month, she's gone. Later, she tells a friend, "I just couldn't see him as a protector anymore." Understand this. She didn't want his pain. She wanted proof that she could access his pain. Once the walls came down, once the mystery was gone, so was her attraction. The test wasn't about getting the information. It was about knowing if the information could be gotten. This is the must-have. Don't want paradox that drives men insane. She asks for the very thing that kills her desire once you give it. And unless you understand that this is the operating system at work, you'll keep falling into the same trap. You think you're being loving. She thinks you're showing weakness. And her brain is programmed to punish weakness like kryptonite. So why does she keep testing you? Why does every little thing feel like another challenge? another impossible hoop to jump through because of the resource extraction protocol hardwired into her brain. For most of human history, women survived not by fighting, but by securing resources. During pregnancy and child rearing, they were physically vulnerable. They couldn't outrun predators or outfight enemies. So evolution gave them another tool, the instinct to test. Test for strength, test for consistency, test for resources. And here's the kicker that protocol never turns off. Every comfort test, every "do you still love me?" every sudden demand. It's not random. It's not even conscious. It's her brain scanning you like antivirus software, asking, is the resource stream still flowing? Can he still protect me? Is he still worth the investment? But in modern society, she doesn't need you for food or shelter anymore. She has her own career, government support, dating apps with unlimited options. Yet the extraction protocol still runs. So instead of resources, she's extracting validation, attention, emotional labor, lifestyle experiences, things evolution never accounted for. That's why you feel drained, like you're pouring into a bottomless well, because she isn't designed to stop extracting once her needs are met. She's designed to keep testing forever, and it doesn't end with testing. The extraction protocol also installs control mechanisms. The two strongest are guilt and fear. First, guilt. You're not doing enough. You're not romantic enough. You're not present enough. This rewires your decisions. You start asking, will this upset her? Will this disappoint her? Then comes fear. I might leave. I might find someone better. I might not love you anymore. Now, every choice you make runs through her filter. You're no longer acting from strength. You're reacting from weakness. You've become a puppet running her code. And here's the brutal twist. This programming doesn't start when she meets you. It starts from birth. Boys are told they must earn love. They must achieve. They must prove their worth. They must never feel like they are enough. From day one, love becomes a performance they must maintain. Girls, on the other hand, are told they deserve love simply for existing. They're princesses. They're special. They're valuable just because they are. No achievement required. No proving necessary. Do you see what this creates? Men who spend their lives chasing approval, and women who spend their lives withholding it. One side is programmed to keep giving. The other is programmed to keep testing. The system is rigged from the beginning, and most men don't even realize it. There was even an experiment where couples divided resources. When women had control, they shared less than men. When women didn't have control, they demanded more than men. The conclusion was clear. Women's strategy is extractive. Take when strong, take when weak. Men's strategy was protective. Share when strong, conserve when weak. And this pattern repeats in real relationships. A woman starts sweet, loving, sexual. A man commits. Slowly, she reduces affection. Slowly, she increases demands. The man responds the only way he knows, by trying harder, giving more, working overtime to fix what's wrong. But here's the twist. The harder he tries, the less respect she has. His panic makes him double down. His doubled efforts only disgust her, until finally, she cheats or leaves, and he's left shattered, saying, "But I did everything she asked." That's the trap. She handed him a test disguised as an instruction manual, and he failed by following it, because the female brain doesn't respect the man who bends. It respects the man who stands firm. And unless you unlearn the programming you got from childhood that love must be earned by endless giving, You'll keep replaying the same painful story, again and again. Here's the next brutal truth. The female brain processes male weakness like kryptonite. Not because women are cruel, not because they want to hurt you, but because, for thousands of years, weakness in a man meant death for her and her children. Her ancestors who trusted weak men didn't survive. So evolution gave women a weakness detection system more advanced than any technology we've ever built. She can sense it everywhere, in the timing of your text messages, in the hesitation in your voice, in the gifts you choose when you're desperate to please her. She can smell your insecurity like blood in the water. She can feel your fear before you've even said a word. 1 millisecond of uncertainty during a phone call, and her attraction drops. A slight wobble in your confidence, and she questions everything. It's not conscious, it's instinct. Her brain is programmed to reject weakness the way yours is programmed to avoid poison. You've probably heard the old saying that women are more emotional. Wrong. Women are not more emotional. They're more tactical with emotions. They don't drown in feelings the way men do. They weaponize them. When she cries, it's often strategy. When she gets angry, it's usually calculation. When she acts sad, it's frequently manipulation. To you, emotions are problems to solve. To her, emotions are tools to deploy. That's why men get blindsided again and again. You treat her feelings as reality. She uses her feelings as leverage. And when you show your own feelings, the raw, unfiltered kind, you think you're deepening intimacy. But in her brain, that moment rewrites your identity. You're no longer the protector. You're no longer the solid rock. You've revealed cracks in the armor. And once she sees those cracks, she can't unsee them. Understand this, she doesn't hate weakness because she's heartless. She hates weakness because her survival programming can't allow it. And every time you show it, you trigger that ancient alarm system inside her. That's why she says she wants vulnerability, but pulls away the moment you give it. She wants to know she can break your walls. But the second she does, you're no longer the man she trusted to protect her. Weakness, to her, is betrayal. And here's another twist. Women don't actually want equality. They want selective equality. Equal pay, absolutely. Equal opportunities. Of course, but equal accountability, not a chance. Equal responsibilities. Only when it's convenient. To you, that sounds like hypocrisy. To her, it's optimization. Her brain is wired to maximize benefits and minimize costs. That's why when she says, "I want equality," what she really means is, "I want your advantages added to my advantages." Not actual balance, not real fairness, just more upside with less downside. And you see this everywhere once you start paying attention. Take women working in beauty industries, hairstylists, nail techs, estheticians. All day they serve wealthy clients. They hear stories of trips, gifts, lifestyles they don't have. And then they go home to you, carrying resentment. Not because you failed them, but because comparison poisoned them. Their reference point resets. Suddenly, what you provide isn't enough, not because it lacks value, but because it doesn't measure up to what they've just seen. This is how female psychology works. The comparison engine never stops running. Reality doesn't matter. Perception does. And when the highlight reel of others becomes the standard, your real-life effort always feels too small. And it shows up in communication too. When she tells her friends about your relationship problems, she isn't looking for advice. She's not searching for solutions. She's building a narrative. In that story, she's the victim. You're the villain, and she deserves better. Her friends aren't there to challenge her. They're there to validate her script. It's not a consultation. It's a ritual. Once you see this pattern, you can't unsee it. Selective equality isn't about fairness. It's about leverage. It's about stacking advantages while shedding responsibilities. And it's about making sure she's always ahead in the endless game of comparison. And this is where it gets even darker. The comparison engine in her brain never shuts off. Every woman you interact with, she's scanning. Is that girl prettier? Younger, slimmer? Would he choose her over me? And every man she meets, she's scanning too. Is he taller, richer, more confident? Could I get him if I wanted? It's not conscious betrayal. It's unconscious optimization. Like a stock trading algorithm running 24/7, always scanning for the best possible investment. To you, that sounds exhausting. To her, it feels natural. It's how her operating system runs. And it doesn't stop there. Women think in a way that men can barely comprehend. It's called dialectical thinking. They can hold two completely contradictory beliefs at the exact same time without any discomfort. She can believe you're the love of her life and also believe she deserves better. She can claim marriage is sacred while keeping divorce as a backup option. She can swear loyalty to you while secretly maintaining other options just in case. To a man, that sounds like lying. To her, it's just context. What's true in this moment is true. What's true tomorrow might be different, and that's fine. Truth, for her, isn't binary. It's flexible. It bends to fit the situation, the emotion, and the opportunity. That's why you get blindsided. One day she swears she'll never leave. The next day she's packing her bags, saying the relationship no longer feels right. And when you confront her with her own words, she doesn't see the contradiction. In her mind, both versions were true at the time. This is the endless loop you're caught in. Constant comparisons, shifting truths, a moving target you can never fully pin down. And unless you understand this engine, you'll keep trying to solve her contradictions with logic when in reality, they aren't contradictions at all. They're features of her operating system. Now let's peel back another layer. Most men never see female friendships. Men build friendships on shared experiences, loyalty, and respect. If you've been through battles together, you're brothers for life. But for women, friendship runs on transactions, emotional support, social validation, network access. As long as the exchange feels balanced, the friendship survives. The moment it feels one-sided, it does. That's why female circles often explode with drama. Secrets become weapons, compliments become competition, and the whole thing feels unstable to men because we're running a completely different operating system. And tied to all of this is hypergamy, the hard-coded program in the female brain to seek the highest value man available. She's biologically wired to always look up. But here's the cruel twist available, keeps recalculating. Every time she meets a new man, hears a new success story, or scrolls through a highlight reel on social media, her baseline resets. Yesterday you were enough. Today you're average. Tomorrow you might be invisible. You're not just competing against other men in her real life. You're competing against an ever-inflating standard that exists only in her imagination. A fantasy composite built from every perfect moment she's ever seen. That's why so many men feel blindsided. You work for years. You sacrifice. You build stability. And the moment you finally succeed, she shifts. Suddenly, she says you've changed, that you feel distant, that something's missing. But the truth is simpler. Her hypergamy calculator updated. The successful version of you could now attract women she thinks are better, which means her relative position dropped. And in her mind, that makes her feel replaceable. So she leaves not because you failed, but because she fears you can do better. And that's the game you're really playing. A game where the bar doesn't just rise, it never stops rising. It doesn't matter how long you've been together. It doesn't matter how loyal you are. Every interaction you have, every glance she catches, every man she meets, her brain is scanning, calculating, comparing. When you talk to another woman, she's asking herself, is that girl prettier, younger, slimmer? Would he choose her instead of me when she meets another man? The question flips. Is he taller, richer, more confident? Could I get him if I wanted? To you, this sounds like betrayal. To her, it feels natural. It isn't conscious cheating. It's unconscious optimization, like a stock trading algorithm running Tour 4, Tour 7 in the background, always scanning for better returns. And here's where it gets even more brutal. She doesn't just live in comparison. She lives in contradiction. Women think dialectically. That means they can hold two completely opposite beliefs at the exact same time without feeling conflicted. She can believe you're the love of her life and still believe she deserves better. She can declare that marriage is sacred while keeping divorce as a just-in-case option. She can swear loyalty while quietly holding backup plans. To a man, that feels like lying. To her, it's just context. Truth isn't fixed. It's flexible. It bends to fit the situation, the feeling, the opportunity. That's why men get blindsided. One day she swears she'll never leave. The next day, she's packing her bags, saying it just doesn't feel right anymore. And when you remind her of her promises, she doesn't see the contradiction. In her mind, both versions were true in their moment. This is the endless loop, constant comparisons, shifting truths, a moving target you can never lock down. And unless you understand this engine, you'll keep wasting energy trying to solve contradictions with logic when in reality, they aren't bugs. They're features of her operating system. Here's another truth that hurts. Men and women don't experience love the same way. When a man falls in love, it's like concrete. Once it sets, it's solid, permanent, unshakable. That's why men can stay devoted for decades, even when things get hard. Love, for him, is a foundation. For women, love is water. It takes the shape of whatever container it's in. It shifts with pressure. It evaporates when it isn't constantly replenished. That's why women can fall out of love overnight, while men take years to let go. Her love isn't a foundation, it's a flow. And if the flow stops, so does her bond. Now add this in her mind. Every man belongs in one of three boxes: alpha genes, beta resources, invisible neither. If you start as beta, she'll never truly see you as alpha. If you start as alpha and slip into beta traits, you'll never recover that alpha status. And if you're invisible, you don't even exist in her reality. Here's the kicker: she needs both alpha and beta traits, but usually from different men. That's why she dreams of the bad boy while staying with the provider, husband for stability, pool boy for excitement. And this leads to the most powerful revelation: women aren't natural relationship builders. They're extractors. You've been told women nurture, sustain, and hold relationships together. Wrong. Women create relationship entropy. They don't maintain the structure you do. They test it. They extract from it. And when the structure weakens under the strain, they move on to the next one. That's why you feel drained. That's why, no matter how much you give, it never feels enough. Because the game was never about building with you. It was always about extracting from you until the structure collapsed. And unless you see this truth, you'll keep mistaking her extraction for love. There was an experiment that showed this in the rawest way possible. Researchers separated men and women on an island to see how each group would survive. The men immediately organized. They divided labor, built shelter, established systems. Within days, they had a functioning mini-society. Order, productivity, structure. The women, they consumed their supplies almost immediately. They argued, they created drama. They built nothing. And when men were later introduced into the women's group, the women stopped working altogether, expecting the men to provide. When women were added to the men's group, something else happened. Drama erupted. Alliances formed. The systems the men had built began to break down. It wasn't culture. It wasn't upbringing. It was nature on display. Now, zoom out to history. Trace back every major societal collapse. Rome, Greece, Babylon, and you'll see the same pattern. Standards drop. Accountability disappears. Resources shift from producers to consumers. Birth rates fall. Society weakens. And then, external forces take over. Why? Because when you optimize for female psychology, feelings over facts, comfort over challenge, security over freedom, you create weakness, and weakness always gets conquered by strength. The same pattern is playing out today, right in front of you. Look at the modern dating market. Female psychology unleashed without restraint. No shame, no accountability, no consequences. And what happened? Exactly what evolutionary logic predicts. 20% of men capture 80% of female attention. Women would rather share one high-value man than commit to an average one. The rest of the men become invisible, wondering why no one sees them. And women keep asking the same question. Where have all the good men gone? The answer? They're right there. You just can't see them anymore. Because hypergamy has recalibrated your vision. It only recognizes the top tier, and anything below feels invisible. This is how civilizations weaken. It starts in the family. It spreads through the culture. And eventually, the collapse becomes unavoidable. Here's the truth you can't unhear. Women don't think like men. They never did. Their love isn't concrete. It's water shifting, flowing, evaporating the moment you stop feeding it. Their loyalty isn't a vow. It's a calculation reset every single day. And their memory. It rewrites itself to protect their ego, painting you as the villain no matter how much you gave. You've been told the wrong story your whole life. That love is sacrifice. That commitment is security. That being good enough means being chosen. But that script was designed to keep you blind, to make you play a game you didn't even know you were in. Now you see the code. Every test, every contradiction, every manipulation, it's all part of the operating system. You can't change it. You can't fix it. You can only decide how you'll play. And that's the choice in front of you. Keep living in the illusion, or accept reality and start playing by your own rules. Because once you see women as they are, not as you wish they were, you finally stop bleeding out energy and love into a system designed to extract it. The red button is right here. Push it. Step out of the script. Step into clarity. And learn to master the game instead of being mastered by it.